Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Pointy Not Sharp. Today we're taking a look at a Russian model of 1891/30 socket bayonet for the Russian Mosin Nagant rifle, the model of 1891/30 in 7.62mm by 54 rimmed for her pleasure. So these bayonets and rifles are manufactured by numerous Russian state arms factories, including Tula and a stack others. And they replaced the model of 1891 rifle. So the 91 rifle had a very similar bayonet to this one, with only really one difference. So as you can see here, this one has a push button to connect to the rifle. The 91 had a locking ring, which just came down around here. So slightly different mechanism for attachment to the rifle. In 1930, the Soviets updated the rifle and gave the designation the 91/30, and with the update to the rifle, they updated the bayonet, got rid of the locking ring, and used this little attachment button here. Now, initially, the rifles didn't have sight protectors over the front sights. So, when they first made a couple of these bayonets, they made what they call the 91/30 Panshin bayonet, which is the same as this, except over here, it would have had a sight cover for the sight built onto the bayonet. Because Russian doctrine was, the bayonet stays fixed to the rifle at all times and does not come off. So what does it matter if the sight protector is attached to the bayonet or the rifle? Well, this didn't last very long. And shortly after, the sight protectors were made directly onto the rifle. And the bayonets with the sight protectors on them were no longer compatible with those rifles because you can't, it wouldn't fit. So a lot of them were removed or just stuck with the rifles without sight protectors, and they started manufacturing these, the model of 91/30 bayonets, without the sight protectors on them. When they made these, they didn't issue scabbards with them because, as I said, Russian doctrine was the bayonet stays fixed to the rifle at all times. So what use does a soldier have for a scabbard if the bayonet's never going to come off? Well, obviously that wasn't terribly practical. Soldiers need to move rifles logistically. They need to be stored in crates, and when you have to remove a bayonet, it's a loose piece that can go missing. Likewise, soldiers need to make logistic moves themselves, get into vehicles, or go through buildings, trenches, any number of reasons where a bayonet on a long rifle is not practical and would need to be removed. And because they've got no easy way to store it on their person except tucking it into a belt or what have you, they were lost in huge numbers. And during the Second World War, the Soviets really started to get the shits with how many bayonets they were losing. So in 1943, they put a trial forward to trial a number of rifles with fixed bayonets. And ultimately they picked one with a folding bayonet in this style. They made about 20,000 of those rifles with the folding bayonets, but not too many. There's not too many of them still around. If you come across one, lucky you. But in 1944, they made a new style of carbine with a folding bayonet in that same style. So prior to that, the Russian carbines didn't have bayonets at all, which wasn't the best. Now, during the war, a number of Mosin Nagant rifles were captured by the enemy, being Finland, Germany, Austria, even Romania. And those countries did make leather scabbards for the bayonets. Pretty crudely made scabbards, but just made of leather. There's not too many of them out there, but you can find leather scabbards for these, and they are correct if you find them. That being said, though, there's a number of repros that are being made. They're pretty cheap, not too bad. I'm tempted to let the collector who owns this bayonet know, so he'll probably want to pick one up. But if you don't have a scabbard and it's a Russian bayonet, it's correct. It's not supposed to have a scabbard. It's just a nice thing to have. So those folding bayonets for the 44 carbines actually went on to become the SKS folding bayonet, the cruciform socket, folding bayonet that we all know and love. It's pretty common, and see them all over the collector's market, and no one ever seems to buy them because they're pretty crap. So obviously in the description I've named this the Fritzy sticker. The reason I've done that is during the Second World War, The Russians nicknamed the Germans the Fritzys and the Hansies because in the First War they took a number of German prisoners and everyone was either called Fritz or Hans. So, not too imaginative, they nicknamed the Germans Fritzy or Hansi. Kind of a derogative term, kind of like the British called the Germans Jerrys, or the Germans called the British Tommies. Nicknamed the Russians Ivans. It's not a terribly inventive nickname, but it's what they stuck with. Anyway, taking a look at the construction of the actual blade, we've got a cruciform blade, as you can see, which ends in a pretty sharp little screwdriver head style in there. Nice little flat head. So get that to focus, please. Come on. Nope. I'll have to take my word for it. Anyway, they're not the first country to use a cruciform blade, but pretty good little design there. It's a bit heavier than the French Rosalie, which is a very light cruciform in comparison. And just a standard socket with a push button. So your front sight slides in there, locks in the side, and your push button just locks it in place. Very simple. And we'll have a look at the markings. Now, I've done a bit of research into Mosin Nagant markings, and I've got to say, the more reading I do, the more confused I get, because there are so many manufacturers, so many different markings, so many different combinations, so many refurbished markings, and the ones I have in this bayonet, I can't even find. From what I can read, there's that many that are undocumented and still a bit of a mystery. And a lot of them weren't even documented until 2014 when some fella did a research paper on it. But what we do have is a nice big clear legible serial number on the side just here, as you can see. And just above that we have a number 1 within a box, and from what I can tell, markings in that position there above the serial number indicate a refurbishment, and that marking is who did this particular refurbishment. Now, I found a list of about 20 different countries that do the refurbishments, and a number 1 within a box doesn't match any of them. If it had been a number 1 within a triangle, it would have been Moscow, but that's not what I have here. As you can see, this is a very crudely made bayonet, and that's indicative of World War II production. Now, over here on the push button, we have what I believe to be the manufacturer's marking, or what I've read is the manufacturer's marking, should be the manufacturer's marking. We have a little diamond just next to my thumb there, with the top right corner of it worn away. Now, I haven't been able to track down which manufacturer that is. I've found a number of manufacturers' markings, and this doesn't match any of the ones I've found. So, if you know anything about these markings, comment below. Please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. It's a bit of a mystery to me. So these were obviously in service from 1930 until the late 40s, early 50s, when they were replaced by the SKS and the AK rifles. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure a number of them were retained in service for reserve roles or training roles, ceremonial roles, and a number of them were probably stockpiled for a very long time. But yeah, they were pretty much out of service by early 50s when they were replaced by more modern rifles. Yeah, there's a number of them on the surplus market, usually pretty cheap, like you see them here in Australia for $80, pretty common. But it's a nice little bayonet. As a rule, I generally don't do socket bayonets, so I don't have too much of an interest in them. But this is a cool little one that I couldn't pass up. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you know anything that I've missed, please comment below. I'd love to hear from you. See you next time.